I was only 12 when my abusive father kicked out my sister's mother and I. I still vividly remember that day and the pain I felt in my chest watching my mother beg him not to do so because we didn't have anywhere else to go. He just hit her in the face once again, causing her to fall back while my sisters and I rushed to help her. We had to pack our things in the bags and leave the house. Mother was sobbing, her face all swollen up because of crying and the beating she received. That bastard came home again, drunk out of his mind, and told us he doesn't want to see us ever again because he found another woman. Mom tried to talk about it with him, telling him there's another solution, but he started to abuse her again, like he always did when he's drunk. I spent my whole childhood watching those disturbing scenes, wishing I was dead so I don't have to go through it almost every day. You see, my mother was forbidden from working, and we were homeschooled. She would have divorced him before, but she didn't have anywhere else to go. Her parents died when she was in college, and other relatives lived in other towns. When he kicked us out, we ended up on a cold, rainy street that day. I remember my sisters crying and my mother with shaking hands dialing numbers on her phone to seek help. Every relative found some excuse at that point. My child brain tried to explain it with them not having enough money or space for us to stay. But now I know they're all selfish jerks. The only relative that offered us help was a girl that we didn't talk to very often. My mother was her aunt. She was the daughter of Mom's oldest sister that lived in another country. I remember my mother's face getting pale when she saw her number on the screen as the only one that she didn't call. You see, there was a reason why we didn't talk to her often. She was the weirdest individual I had ever seen. There were rumors circling around the family about her being a witch or possessed by an evil spirit. I had never blamed them because of what they said. She always made me feel uncomfortable, and I realized relatives were more than right now that I live under the same roof as her. Everyone tried to avoid her as much as possible. Though she was still invited to family gatherings, she always kept aside and didn't talk to anybody that much. Her presence would always bring that uneasy feeling in the room, and the air around her was always cold. I remember that weird feeling in my stomach every time I passed by her. I wanted to believe other aunts and relatives were just making things up, but that feeling always made me question what is wrong with her. The more I looked at her, the more I realized she's not an ordinary person. It turned out to be more than true when we moved in. Cousin's name is Evangeline, and she's a young lady in her 20s. I always secretly admired her appearance. She had long platinum blonde hair that was always brushed perfectly or tied in a bun or two braids without a single hair sticking out. Her body was also perfect shape. The dresses and skirts she wore reminded me of Victorian era. I never saw her wearing pants though. Her small lips always had blood red lipstick, or at least any other shade of red, and she always had the same perfume. Her style was pretty different, but that's not everything that made her stand out. Her icy blue eyes were empty and always burned holes into my soul. Evangeline's voice was monotone, always the same tone which never held any emotions, and it matched her blank expression perfectly. We have never seen her smile, laugh, or cry. Always the same doll-like expression. She rarely spoke, and when she did, conversations were kept short. Her movements were elegant and easy no matter the situation. You couldn't read her feelings based on her body language. She looked like a perfect porcelain doll, and you'd probably mistake her for one if she didn't move. Even her skin looked like porcelain. I wanted to touch her just to assure myself that she's a human being, but she never allowed us to have physical contact with her. Overall, she creeped me out, but since that day we had to live with her, we didn't have any other choice, and my mother was really happy someone decided to help us. She promised my mother she will help her get through the whole process of divorce, and we can stay with her as long as we want, but we have to listen to her. We didn't think much of it at that point because we were glad she helped us, even though everyone painted her as an evil person. We just nodded our heads and went with her to her house. But as soon as we entered, we realized what she meant when she said we have to listen to her. At the moment we got inside, she gave us papers with rules demanding us to follow them at all costs. Otherwise, we would have to leave in the best case. In the worst case, she doesn't even want to describe to us what would happen. We went through the rules and wanted to think she was joking, but that look in her eyes and the eerie feeling with her told me she is serious and this is not some kind of prank. Her old maid, Lizzie, also mentioned how important it is to follow those rules no matter how crazy they sound. She also said we can ask her for advice on how to follow the rules in the best way without getting hurt. My mother had a worried expression on her face, but she also agreed to follow the rules. We have to be respectful towards her and this house if we want to stay, even if this was some kind of sick joke of hers. Here's what she wrote. Before you start reading further, I would like to say, welcome to Evangeline's home. I hope you feel good while staying here. On this paper, I provided you a list of rules you have to follow if you want to have a peaceful time in my house, or if you are not suicidal, because breaking these rules can cause serious consequences, such as injuries, and even worse, death. Rules are below. 1. All the doors leading outside and windows should be locked all the time, even when everyone is home. The only window you can open if you want some fresh air is the one in your bedroom. Open it while you are inside and lock it when you want to leave. 2. Bedroom doors should also be locked, even when you are inside. In case you open the window and forgot to lock it, the bedroom door should be locked, or else we can only pray it didn't go outside. 3. In this house, we have a special schedule when we eat. Make sure you are at the table at the exact time. Breakfast, 9 a.m. Lunch, 2:30 p.m. Dinner, 6:30 p.m. In case you can't eat at that time, you can prepare something, but you have to eat in your bedroom. Doors locked, remember, and clean after yourself immediately. 4. Snacks and meals out of schedule are allowed until 11 p.m. After that, it's strictly forbidden to eat anything. Eating will cause unwanted attention. 5. Never leave any food on the plate or outside of the kitchen, where I keep food. If you can't finish your meal, throw food outside, but never leave the food anywhere in the house. 6. Kitchen is always locked. If you need to use it, ask Evangeline for the key. She will give it to you. When you enter the kitchen, lock it, and when you exit, also lock the door. Return the key to Evangeline directly. If she isn't home, keep it with yourself and give it to her when she comes back. 7. Evangeline leaves the house every Saturday from 12 o'clock to 1:30. She will give you a kitchen key, but you are not to prepare any food for yourself during that time. Around 12:45, you will hear sounds of bones cracking upstairs. Go to the kitchen and leave a big piece of raw meat outside of the kitchen door. Lock yourself in and don't make a sound. Don't go out until it moves away from the door and you can't hear bones cracking anymore. 8. If you break rules 5 or 6, you will hear growling and fast tapping around the house. Hide immediately, away from the kitchen or place where you left food. Make sure you are hidden well and don't go outside until everything is quiet again. 9. Don't spill the salt. If you do, quickly clean it and apologize out loud. You shouldn't be in trouble if you apologize properly. 10. Never feed cat Cordelia. Evangeline feeds her on schedule and she will notify you if you have to feed her that day. Make sure you also throw out the food she didn't finish, or Rule 8 applies. 11. Wax and porcelain dolls are always on shelves. Do not touch them. If you ever find them in any other place, notify Evangeline. If she is not home, tell Lizzie. She will take care of it. These dolls are not what they seem. 12. Everyone needs to be in their rooms before midnight with doors locked 3 times. Do not leave your room until 7:30 in the morning. 13. Whatever you hear, do not leave your room at night and stay away from the door. Otherwise, they will catch you and we will have to collect the pieces of you in the morning. 14. There is a room with a dark blue door at the end of the hallway. Do not approach the door or open it at any circumstances. You may hear voices calling out to you and begging you to help them. Simply ignore it. What is locked inside is beyond dangerous to be let outside. 15. If you see Cordelia friendly meowing at an empty space, say, "Hi, Maggie," and don't look back in that direction for 5 minutes. Maggie hates to be seen. 16. If you see Cordelia hissing and standing at the stairs, you have exactly 5 minutes to hide in the basement. 17. Before entering the basement, always turn on the lights first. You don't want to know what would happen if you don't. 18. While in the basement, you may hear a girl's voice asking you where's her mother. Calmly answer with, "I don't understand you," and don't look behind you. She will continue to ask again and again, but always answer the same. She will be gone after 5 or 6 questions. If she asks you any other question, close your eyes and start singing whatever you want. Don't open your eyes or stop until you can't hear her anymore. 19. If you are using the basement on some other occasion, Rule 18 still applies. You can't leave the basement until you can't hear her anymore in both cases. 20. If you hear scratching behind the walls, leave the house immediately and come back after 20 minutes. It should stop by then. 21. Scent in the house is always the same. If you start smelling decomposed flesh, close your eyes and don't move. You will hear screeching and footsteps in the room. Don't open your eyes until it stops, or the creature will rip you to pieces. 22. There is a picture of the house hanging on the wall of every room. If the picture is turned upside down, hide in the nearby closet. 23. If the song Jeepers Creepers starts playing out of nowhere, dance to it until it stops. While dancing, always look straight ahead no matter what you see in the corner of your eye. If you hear only instrumental of the song playing, hide. 24. If you notice blood leaking from the cracks in the walls, notify Evangeline immediately. Phone her if you need, but she has to know. This doesn't happen often though. 25. If the screen on TV turns to static, turn it off and leave the living room. You will hear moaning and sound of metal hitting the floor. Do not close the door, do not look back, and don't go there until the sound stops completely. She can be tricky and make a pause for a minute or two just to lure you in while you think it's stopped. 26. Don't be too loud from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. You can wake Lottie up. If you do, maid Lizzie will immediately escort us all outside of the house. We can only pray she fell back asleep when we come back. 27. It's forbidden to leave the house from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. If you go out, make sure you are back before 11 p.m. Otherwise, you can't go back until morning. 28. Any little animals you see in the backyard, do not approach them no matter what. Those are not animals. 29. Whatever object you find in the backyard, do not bring it inside. Even if it's something you lost before or accidentally left outside, you will only bring us trouble if you break this rule. 30. Do not bring over visitors who can't take these rules seriously. The best is never to bring visitors here. Do you get what I'm talking about? My sisters were really upset later, and my mother went to talk to maid Lizzie about it, but she only told her she can't say much without Evangeline's permission, and that we should follow the rules. Evangeline also noted Lizzie is too old to take care of some tasks, so one of us will have to while Lizzie takes care of other things. They had a long discussion about all of that, and I couldn't hear everything. Later, Mother explained how this could be a joke, maybe, since our cousin is really, let's say, interesting individual. But we will stick to the rules because we have to be respectful. But I could see how upset my mother was and how uncomfortable I felt in this creepy old Victorian home. It felt like something evil was lurking behind these walls. All of us had our own room and bathroom connected to it. The house has a lot of rooms, such as a small library, clothes room, etc. Evangeline was living here a couple of years with her maid, whom we simply know as Lizzie, an old woman she saved from dogs on the street. The woman was more of a friend to her than maid, even though she referred to herself as one. Lizzie was a short and bony old woman in her 60s with her gray hair braided in 2 French braids. She wore a black dress that touched her feet and a white shirt underneath it. She had a gentle and calm voice of a caring old lady, and I always felt safe around her. She made sure we followed the rules, and she would answer on the questions Evangeline ignored. But she also had some boundaries, and some things were never answered to us. The first day of staying there, I wanted to believe my mother. I wanted it to be some weird and twisted joke until my younger sister Jill accidentally left an apple on the table in the dining room. We were all sitting in the living room. 4 of us were playing on the floor with some dolls Evangeline gave us from her bedroom. Mother and Lizzie watching TV while Evangeline sat in her rocking chair with her hairless cat Cordelia curled up in her lap. None of us knew Jill left that apple there until we started hearing growling and fast tapping. It wasn't coming from one direction. It seemed like it's coming everywhere around the house. Immediately, I looked at Evangeline, whose facial expression was still blank despite all of us looking pale and scared. Lizzie quickly made us follow her while Mother and cousin quickly walked behind us. Without a sound, we got upstairs and hid in a room where Evangeline keeps her clothes. I was shaking at that point. My sisters were about to start crying while Lizzie held my mother's hand. Evangeline was calm with the same facial expression, looking straight ahead. What was wrong with her? There is literally a creature downstairs sounding absolutely demonic, and she is so calm like it's an everyday thing. 5 minutes later it stopped. Cousin calmly walked to the door and put her head on it, trying to listen to the sounds outside. She then said with her monotone voice, "It's safe now," and motioned us to follow her back to the living room. We were still shaking. Then she turned to us and in the same tone asked, "Who left the food and broke the rule?" Jill was crying and trying to avoid eye contact with Evangeline, who seemed scarier now. "Tell me who left the food. I will not scold you for it. It would get much worse than scolding if you broke some other rule." Jill sobbed out, "I left the apple. I'm sorry. I thought it wasn't real." It was an accident. Evangeline looked her straight in the eyes, giving her a really serious look which was threatening and demanding at the same time. Something I have never seen. Her gaze pierced right through her soul. Don't ever question the rules, and never again break them if you want to breathe. Jill nodded while my mother hugged her, whispering that everything will be okay. I wished it would be okay. It was the first time when we broke the rule and realized it's not a joke. Rules in this house exist for a good reason. It's been a year and a half since we moved in that house, and I have plenty of experience with those rules. I've seen some crazy things that will haunt me forever. There was a lot to tell about that hell of a house. I had experienced the horrors of that house on my first day there, which made me take those rules seriously. We couldn't say anymore that it is a prank. What we heard assured us that this isn't made up. Something really is behind those walls, lurking and waiting for someone to make a mistake. After that one encounter, I managed to explain to myself that weird feeling Evangeline brought with her presence. My gut feeling was telling me right about her and this house, but some questions still remained unanswered. Why was she behaving like that? Did this house cause her to be like this? What is actually going on here? What are those things that live here beside us? Couple of months in that house, I couldn't get any answers to my questions. We took the rules seriously and followed them at all costs. Lizzie made sure we do everything the proper way. She would always check our bedroom doors and windows. She would also check if the kitchen is locked, and made sure we were quiet between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. because of that thing they referred to as Lottie. I will touch on that later though. There are many things to be said. We experienced a lot of things during the period of 1 year and a half. My mother is unable to find and keep a job now because of the virus outbreak, and I don't know how long we will live in this house. We don't have problems if we follow the rules. After some time it becomes routine, but you can't ever truly be relaxed in that place. Just the thought that something is there beside you is enough to make chills run down your spine. From all the things I had experienced there, one of the worst things is at night. My first night in that house was horrifying. I thought I won't be able to survive until morning. I didn't sleep properly for weeks until I became so exhausted that I couldn't stay awake anymore. After some time, let's say that I got used to it, but it doesn't mean I sleep well. Most of the nights, I fight fear and pray that the doors will keep us safe. That first night, we were still trying to shake the shock from the previous encounter when Jill broke rule number 5. Also, before I go further, I will once again write the rules here in case you didn't memorize them. 1. All doors leading outside and windows should be locked at all time, even when everyone is home. The only window you can open if you want some fresh air is the one in your bedroom. Open it while you are inside and lock it when you leave. 2. Bedroom doors should be locked even when you are inside. In case you open the window and forgot to lock it, the bedroom door should be locked, or else we can only pray it didn't get outside. 3. In this house, we have a special schedule when we eat. Make sure you're at the table at the exact time. Breakfast, 9 a.m. Lunch, 2:30 p.m. Dinner, 6:30 p.m. In case you can't eat at that time, you can prepare something, but you have to eat in your bedroom. Doors locked, remember. And clean after yourself immediately. 4. Snacks and meals out of schedule are allowed until 11 p.m. After that, it's strictly forbidden to eat anything. Eating will cause unwanted attention. 5. Never leave food on the plate or outside of the kitchen, where I keep food. If you can't finish your meal, Throw food outside, but never leave the food anywhere in the house. 6. Kitchen is always locked. If you need to use it, ask Evangeline for the key. She will give it to you. When you enter the kitchen, lock it, and when you exit, also lock the door. Return the key to Evangeline directly. If she isn't home, keep it with yourself and give it to her when she comes back. 7. Evangeline leaves the house every Saturday from 12 o'clock to 1:30. She will give you the kitchen key, but you are not to prepare any food for yourself during that time. Around 12:45, you will hear the sound of bones cracking upstairs. Go to the kitchen and leave a big piece of raw meat outside the kitchen door. Lock yourself in and don't make a sound. Don't go out until it moves away from the door and you can't hear bones crackling anymore. 8. If you break rules 5 or 6, you will hear growling and fast tapping around the house. Hide immediately away from the kitchen or place where you left food. Make sure you are hidden well and don't go outside until everything is quiet again. 9. Don't spill the salt. If you do, quickly clean and apologize out loud. You shouldn't be in trouble if you apologize properly. 10. Never feed cat Cordelia. Evangeline feeds her on a schedule and she will notify you if you have to feed her that day. Make sure you also throw out the food she didn't finish, or Rule 8 applies. 11. Wax and porcelain dolls are always on shelves. Do not touch them. If you ever find them in any other place, notify Evangeline. If she is not home, tell Lizzie. She will take care of it. These dolls are not what they seem. 12. Everyone needs to be in their rooms before midnight with the doors locked 3 times. Do not leave your room until 7:30 in the morning. 13. Whatever you hear, do not leave your room at night and stay away from the door. Otherwise, they will catch you and we will have to collect the pieces of you in the morning. 14. There is a room with a dark blue door at the end of the hallway. Do not approach the door or open it at any circumstances. You may hear voices calling out to you and begging you to help them. Simply ignore it. What is locked inside is beyond dangerous to be let outside. 15. If you see Cordelia friendly meowing at empty space, say, "Hi, Maggie," and don't look back at that direction for 5 minutes. Maggie hates to be seen. 16. If you see Cordelia hissing and standing at the stairs, you have exactly 5 minutes to hide in the basement. 17. Before entering the basement, always turn on the lights first. You don't want to know what will happen if you don't. 18. While in the basement, you may hear a girl's voice asking you where her mother is. Calmly answer with, "I don't understand you," and don't look behind you. She will continue to ask again and again, but always answer the same. She will be gone after 5 or 6 questions. If she asks you any other question, close your eyes and start singing whatever you want. Don't open your eyes or stop until you can't hear her anymore. 19. If you are using the basement on some other occasion, Rule 18 still applies. You can't leave the basement until you can't hear her anymore in both cases. 20. If you hear scratching behind the walls, leave the house immediately and come back after 20 minutes. It should stop by then. 21. Scent in the house is always the same. If you start smelling decomposed flesh, close your eyes and don't move. You will hear screeching and footsteps in the room. Don't open your eyes until it stops, or the creature will rip you to pieces. 22. There is a picture of the house hanging on the wall of every room. If the picture is turned upside down, Hide in the nearby closet. 23. If the song Jeepers Creepers starts playing out of nowhere, dance to it until it stops. While dancing, always look straight ahead no matter what you see in the corner of your eye. If you hear only instrumental of the song playing, hide. 24. If you notice blood leaking from the cracks on the walls, notify Evangeline immediately. Phone her if you need, but she has to know. This doesn't often happen. 25. If the screen on the TV turns to static, turn it off and leave the living room. You will hear moaning and the sound of metal hitting the floor. Do not close the door, do not look back, and don't go there until the sound stops completely. She can be tricky and make a pause for a minute or two, just to lure you in while you think it stopped. 26. Don't be too loud from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. You can wake Lottie up. If you do, maid Lizzie will immediately escort us all outside of the house. We can only pray she fell back asleep when we come back. 27. It's forbidden to leave the house from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. If you go out, make sure you are back before 11 p.m. Otherwise, you can't go back until morning. 28. Any little animals you see in the backyard, do not approach them, no matter what. Those are not animals. 29. Whatever object you find in the backyard, do not bring it inside, even if it's something you lost before or accidentally left outside. You will only bring us trouble if you break this rule. 30. Do not bring over visitors who can't take these rules seriously. The best is to never bring visitors here. At exactly 11 p.m., Evangeline and Lizzie double-check that every door in the house is locked. They also put chairs on the doors, blocking them from being opened. Suddenly, the house became really quiet. It's not that usual silence, if you know what I mean. It was too quiet. Like something was preparing to jump out every second. My gut feeling started telling me something will happen again, and I started to feel more nervous. My 9-year-old sister Billy started sobbing and begging Mom to find a new place. Hearing her sobs, Evangeline, who entered the living room, said, "You can't leave my house before morning." Billy started pulling Mother's hand while she assured her that things will settle down and that we need to stay here for some time. Jill and Anna kept quiet. I glanced at them looking at each other, then at Cordelia that was licking her paw while sitting on the sofa. "You have exactly 15 minutes to get ready for bed. I need you to be in your bedroom with doors locked 3 times. At 11:20, Lizzie will make sure you all lock the doors," Evangeline stated, lifting Cordelia from the sofa and slowly making her way towards the wooded stairs. "Mom, I don't want to sleep alone, please." Billy started crying even more. "Evangeline, can she stay in my room while the other girls share one room?" Mom asked, causing Evangeline to stop at the middle of the stairs and turn around. "Yes, take the basic things you will need. We will move other things tomorrow. We are running out of time now," she answered with her usual monotone tone. Lizzie gestured us to start getting ready quickly. We decided to sleep in Jill's room, which is bigger than my room. We were also next to the room my mom and Billy shared. Evangeline's room was the last room on the left side, while Lizzie's was one door from hers. Quickly climbing up the stairs, I noticed the dark blue door at the end of the hallway, and I immediately remembered what the rules said about it. What was so special about them? Why are the other doors brown and those are blue? I was quickly shaken from my thoughts because we didn't have enough time. I grabbed my pajamas, toothbrush, and plushie from the room I was supposed to sleep in, and headed towards Jill's room. I was the oldest one of them, so I immediately locked the door 3 times and started changing into my pajamas. 5 minutes later, Lizzie knocked on the door, checking if we locked it. She once again repeated to not go out no matter what happened. You may hear the voice of your loved ones, or even one of our voices calling you outside. Do not go out, no matter what. You will be safe only if you are in your bedroom. Also, make sure to be quiet. Don't talk too loud. Do you understand, girls? She asked a bit louder, making sure we took her seriously. Yes, Miss Lizzie, we answered while laying on the bed next to each other. Good night, girls. Stay safe. We heard her walking down the hall towards her room. The clock on the wall showed 11:25, and we talked for 5 more minutes when we started hearing footsteps in the hallway. Anne looked toward the door. Mom? It's not Mom, Anne. Remember, no one should exit their room, Jill said, putting one hand on her shoulder. As she finished the sentence, we heard loud and fast footsteps rushing from one end to the other. That is not Mom, I gasped out, feeling the hair on my back standing up. Jill started praying quietly while I sat up in my bed. Footsteps were getting louder and faster, like someone was running up and down the long hall. Let's check it. Anne got up from the bed. No way, we almost died today. I don't want to risk it again. Jill grabbed her arm, pulling her back on bed. I want to see what it is. Besides, a voice interrupted her. Anne, it's Mom. Open the door. Mom? Anne walked towards the door. Mom, we shouldn't be outside of our rooms. Jill walked behind her. Anne, it's Mom. Open the door. The voice repeated again. Why are you out of your room, Mom? Jill asked while Anne grabbed the door handle. Anne, it's Mom. Open the door. The voice repeated the same sentence again the third time. Mom, I'll open it, but... Anne said while the voice started repeating the same sentence over and over again. At that point, it was clear that it's not our mom. Don't open the door. It's not Mom. I grabbed them both, trying to pull them away from the door. But what if it is? Anna grabbed the door handle again. The rules stated we mustn't open the door, and Lizzie said we can hear voices. I didn't even finish when the voice became louder, demanding us to let it in. With each scream, the voice distorted more and more, starting to sound demonic. It sounded like 2 voices talking at the same time, one low and the other in higher pitch. Get away from the door, I shouted. At that point, then, we heard a loud bang. Jill and Anne immediately backed away towards the bed. The voice got louder and bangs became harder. At that point, I thought the doors would break. I could hear Billy screaming from the room next to us. I was frozen in place, just waiting for that thing to break down the door and kill us all. Oh my God, Anne repeated while rocking in place on the bed. Jill looked at me wide-eyed. Open the goddamn door, you little bastard. I will rip you to pieces. The voice screamed, sounding scarier than ever. Stop, please, Anne screamed, covering her face with her hands. I could feel tears forming in my eyes with the thought that that door will fall down at any moment. And then it stopped. We waited frozen a couple of minutes to hear if it will return. It was again too quiet. At the moment we were about to lie again, we heard footsteps followed by soft male voices singing something we couldn't make out. Not again, Jill mumbled. We didn't sleep until morning, but we were woken up by Lizzie, who said Evangeline expected us at the table because breakfast would be served in 30 minutes. The whole night we could hear voices, footsteps, giggling, moaning, and screeching. It was unbearable. Fear suffocated us the whole night, making it impossible to fall asleep. At least no one banged on our door. Overall, I think I will remember that night my whole life. Even though I went through it many nights with those sounds, you never get quite used to it. During the breakfast, Evangeline had warned us about staying away from the door at night. She explained we will be safe as long as we whisper and stay away from the door, and also ignore all the voices we hear. That's not the only crazy thing though. I have plenty of fucked up experiences, and I will share as much as I can in other posts. I will tell you more experiences soon, if I don't break any rule accidentally and die. Last time, I mentioned how I asked many questions about the rules of the house for the first couple of months there. I didn't get any answers at first. I wasn't the only one that would ask. My sisters would constantly ask why things are like this, or what if this, or what if that. A couple of times I tried speaking about it directly with Evangeline. My curiosity wouldn't leave me alone, so I had to question her. My attempts were unsuccessful. She would look at one direction without even acknowledging me at all. Subconsciously, I would stare at the same spot trying to see what she's looking at, but I couldn't see anything. Other times, it was more than clear that she was ignoring me. We could talk about other things with her, but she wouldn't answer any questions regarding her house, herself, and the rules. I saw her a couple of times ordering my mother to come to her bedroom, and Mom would be so careful and secretive, like she's hiding something. After that, our mother wouldn't allow us to question Evangeline or anyone else in the house. She would often start yelling at us if we did, and threaten we would be grounded. All the time, she would state how important it is to follow the rules and keep our mouths shut. It was like an unwritten rule. I tried with maid Lizzie, but she would quickly change the subject while giving me a look and said, "I'm not allowed to talk about that." I was persistent to find the answer, so I wanted to check the small library in the house. I spent 2 or 3 hours there, trying to find something that would answer my questions, or even give me just a hint where else to search. During my research, I came across a small cabinet in the corner, which was covered with silky black material and porcelain figures on the top. Unfortunately, it was locked, with not just one lock, but 4 of them. It's like whoever locked it wanted to hide something so important inside. This raised more questions. The cabinet had 4 different locks on it, which meant that there are 4 keys. You would have to unlock all to be able to open it. I immediately knew that Evangeline had the keys. Considering how she kept the kitchen key with herself, it's no doubt that she had these too. After all, it seemed like something really important is hidden there. I put back everything in the same place I found it and decided to keep what I found as a secret, considering the circumstances and how it was hidden to look like a simple desk with figures on it. It was of no avail to ask anything anymore because no one wanted to answer. My mother also became secretive about it, repeating the same narrative about the rules again and again. I decided to secretly investigate by myself, and believe me, I still do. I think I won't be able to calm down until I find the answers on questions that roam through my mind. A couple of days after, I found the cabinet. I was sitting in the guest room with Lizzie, who looked outside while it was raining. Others went with Evangeline to buy some things while Lizzie looked after me because I caught a cold. It was a normal thing for me when seasons are changing. I'm really sensitive. We haven't said a word to each other since the girls left. I sat on a small brown sofa with a blanket around me while Lizzie looked outside the window, sighing from time to time. I was thinking about a lot of things, from my homeschool lesson that I started again, to mysteries of this house. Seeing how quiet everything is, I sighed looking at Lizzie. Our eyes met for a second and she suddenly said, "I'm sorry, child, that I ignored you weeks ago when you started questioning me about the house." I instantly remembered that. "It's okay, I understand," I stated quietly, looking at the opposite direction from her. "I know you're curious. It's normal, especially because of all the things that are happening here." I was curious too, and I didn't believe Miss Evangeline when I first got here. I turned my gaze back to her, showing the interest in my eyes so she doesn't change the subject. But a couple hours later, I realized how I made a big mistake. "You know, I almost died that day." She looked at the floor, then back at me. "What happened?" I asked curiously, not moving my eyes from her. "I broke the rule. That one about closing your eyes when you start smelling decomposed flesh." She looked away like she's remembering that event. I was sitting in the living room, waiting for Evangeline to make room for me when I smelled a really strong scent of something rotting. It was so strong that I felt the urge to vomit. I got up from the sofa ready to go upstairs and ask Miss Evangeline about it. I was almost at the exit when I noticed a creature crawling down the stairs. The scent was stronger this time, and I froze in place, not believing what I saw. What did it look like? I asked curiously when she made a pause looking away from me. Her gaze returned and she continued. It was pale, without any hair on its body, bony with ripped skin hanging around and deep wounds. But its face was the most terrifying. She gulped. If I only could call it a face. The thing had 5 or 6 mouths with sharp teeth like a shark. The only thing that it had were mouths on its head, everywhere. No nose, no eyes or ears, just bloody mouths placed everywhere around its head. I felt chills running down my spine as I imagined that creature. It's far more creepy when you realize that thing shares the same roof as you. During that period, I had never encountered any of those things, so I haven't had any idea how terrifying they looked. Lizzie continued while sometimes gazing around like she's expecting something to show up. The moment I saw it, it lifted its head facing my direction, and I could feel that thing looking directly at me even though it had no eyes. It started crawling down the stairs faster as I screamed, unable to move an inch of my body because of the fear that overtook me. She continued. Then I saw Miss Evangeline running after the creature that almost reached the end of the stairs. She shouted at me to close my eyes and not move. Obediently I did because I was so scared. It was the first and last time that I heard her changing the tone of her voice. I was about to ask her something again when she continued looking away like she's recalling the event and experiencing it again. I heard her talking with that thing. She referred to it with a name that I forgot, my child. I heard it crawling back to her. She whispered something to it, followed by the sound of flesh being ripped and tapping up the stairs. When I opened my eyes, Evangeline stood right in front of me, unharmed. Do you think she has some sort of connection with those things? I asked quickly without losing a chance because she could stop at any moment. I don't know. I don't think that I can say more about it. She forbid me from talking about it that day, but I told you because I feel like you won't tell anyone. I won't. Don't worry. I nodded, assuring her that I will keep my mouth shut. I suppose she fed it something to calm it down since I broke one of the rules. I guess so. It sounded like that, I said, thinking about it. She nodded, adding, rules were changed a bit after I started working here. She added the 30th rule about visitors. Those part of the rules that mentioned me were added later after I became the maid in the house. Did she make you maid, or? I asked again, hoping she didn't get tired of my questions. No, it was my decision, because she saved my life 2 times that day. You know, I was homeless without friends and family. She looked away again for the 6th or 7th time, like she's remembering what else she wanted to tell me. Before they come back, I want to tell you more things I'm allowed to share. Lizzie looked back at me again. You know the rule about the kitchen? I nodded. I was the one responsible for the key at the beginning, and I accidentally left the door open one day. I was cleaning and I completely forgot about it. Just thank God that Miss Evangeline noticed on time and hid us. Kitchen was a mess and all the food was gone. That day, she's the one responsible for the key. So, those things ate the food? Yes. I learned that they are always hungry, and we could end up being eaten by some of them. Like I could have been if Evangeline didn't save me that day. That explained the sound we heard when Jill broke the rule. The thing probably came here to eat that apple. As I looked at Maid Lizzie again, I noticed she looks more at ease now, like she got rid of something heavy from her chest. Just promise me you won't tell anyone about this, alright? She smiled a little. I told you, I won't. Don't worry. I'm really good at keeping secrets. I wanted to ask her about that cabinet in the library, but I heard voices of my sisters and door opening, which meant they're back. I'm going to start preparing lunch. See you at the table. She got up from the sofa and exited the room. I followed behind because I was too scared to be alone anywhere in this house. Since the story Lizzie shared with me, I've been thinking about it a lot, trying to connect all the pieces of the puzzle. Given the circumstance in which Evangeline lives here, must be something behind her behavior. I tried to remember her from years ago, but I was so young at the time that I only remembered blurry faces of people. Besides, she didn't come to our place often. Once, I casually started the conversation with my mom while we were alone in her room doing laundry. I asked her about Evangeline, trying to avoid things that would trigger her to start yelling at me. I wanted the conversation to be as normal as it could. I didn't want her to realize I secretly collect the information about the house and all of the stuff that is going on. During that conversation, Mom told me that Evangeline was always a quiet and shy kid with deep, icy blue eyes. It felt like you looked into the ocean. She always carried mystery within herself. She did change the energy in the room when she appeared, but it wasn't the way she does now. During the time her aura became dark and she became quieter, especially when she moved into this house after she graduated high school. For a moment, my mom said how she too thought about her as creepy and felt fear in her stomach when around her. But she quickly added that now it can be seen that she's a good person, just a really weird one, maybe in a positive way. We just need to warm up to her more, honey. She's probably that kind of person that needs more time to open up to others, she said doing the laundry while I sat in the bed. She could be right, I guess. But I especially noticed the part where she said that she started changing more when she moved into this place. So it must be that this house affected her. The conversation with my mother only brought more questions, and I realized that I'll probably need a lot of time to answer all of them, if possible. I wanted to know more about Evangeline. It was hard to read her. She didn't speak much and she never showed any emotions, which was weird and creepy to me. It's like she was soulless. Was she always like this? I mean, did she smile sometimes or spoke more? I asked, looking directly at my mother, who stopped for a moment, then answered. To be honest, she didn't. It was hard to read her. She was alone most of the time, but I remembered when she smiled a couple of times. Mother paused to look at the distance, then finished. She is so pretty when she smiles. I wish she smiled more. Mom? Do you know why she doesn't smile? Why is she so empty? I avoided eye contact with my mother, expecting her to get annoyed with my questions. I really don't know, honey. She sat beside me. I didn't see her often, and she was always mysterious. My sister would always complain about her being so antisocial and quiet to the point she had to homeschool her. I see, Mom added then. Despite her being like that, I think she's a good person. I always thought maybe we'll get closer to her someday. I hope so, was all I said. To be honest, Evangeline did seem really interesting in my eyes, and I did want to know her better. I already told you I admired her beauty, but the way she behaved made me want to get close to her more, just to find out what is behind all of that. Is this house causing it? Or is there something deeper and more complex going on? Once I wanted to touch her because her skin reminded me of porcelain. It looked so perfect without any flaws. She was sitting in her rocking chair, drinking tea and looking at TV. I sat on the sofa with the book in my lap. I stopped reading a couple of minutes before and just observed her. She didn't move much, if you don't count lifting the cup to her lips. I was fighting the urge to touch her arm. Part of me didn't know how she would react and what she would think. Imagine you never had physical contact with your cousin. She never shook your hand or hugged you. You don't know how her skin feels. Part of me also felt that eerie feeling again, but the more time I spent around her, the more used to it I got. Anxiety and gut feelings started to become an everyday thing. I finally made my decision. It won't hurt to just lightly touch her arm with my finger. I looked at her, sitting motionless now like a porcelain doll. I reached with my hand to touch her, but in a swift motion, she grabbed my wrist. The first thing that ran through my mind was how cold her hand is. "What are you doing?" she asked in the same tone, not moving her eyes from the TV. I'm sorry, I just wanted to..." My voice trailed off. "Wanted to see how your skin feels like," I breathed out. I know it sounds stupid, but I couldn't find anything else to say. "Why?" she asked. I thought you looked like a porcelain doll." "It's a compliment, though." I stuttered, feeling her grip on my wrist tighten. "Ask me for the consent next time. I don't like being touched without asking for permission first." She moved her gaze to me, her eyes now burning holes in my soul like she could see my intentions and deepest secrets. I felt chills running down my spine and my gut feeling going wild. I'm sorry." She let go of my wrist and got up from the chair, slowly walking towards the stairs. She turned around then, looking me directly in the eyes. "We all look like porcelain dolls when we have no soul." With that, she left, leaving me on the sofa to think about her words. What did she mean by it? That was indeed creepy, but it raised more questions about her.